Oh, I love it when the camera comes on and I suddenly have to burp. I'll save you guys from all of that stuff, okay? Welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. Oh, man, you know where you are. You know why you're here. And we appreciate the audience that is a part of this family. Thank you so much. WatchChad.com is where all the fun stuff is. You can go find me live out on the road. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and a review. We don't care what you say, but give us the 5 stars because that's what we deserve. A lot of stuff's been happening in recent weeks. I don't think we have to tell you. You are inundated on social media feeds as well as the mainstream media and independent media as well. It's all that, 2024, man, this is a historical year. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that, I don't know, it's unprecedented in a big way, but I don't think if you know human nature that it surprises anybody that this much evil and lying and backstabbing and attempts on people's lives and just the wild stuff that's going on in our world today. I don't think it surprises most of you, especially if you have a biblical worldview. You know man's inhumanity to man, and it's going to get worse, folks. It is going to get worse long before it ever gets better, especially if it ever gets better. We don't know. We don't know, man. Evil is at our doorstep, and it's being beamed into our houses 24/7. One of the guys that's out there fighting evil, and I don't say that lightly, is a guy that I consider a hero. He's a friend, and he's a warrior, and his name is Matt Murphy. Matt, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
Chad, well, thank you so much for that intro, brother. Thank you for having me. And I mean, all things considered, I'm doing great. The country, not so much, but, we're here.
I saw you the other day on my best friend Sarah Gonzalez's show, and I was like, this can't stand. I can't have Matt on Sarah's show and not get him on my show to spend a little extra time. We love Sarah. Sarah's a blessing in my life. And I want to get into this assassination attempt in a little while. We'll talk about that because you're a subject matter expert on that. And I want to get your take on a few different things. Of course, your video was shadow banned in a big way. We'll talk about that and why. But someone did a screen grab of the video when your assessment on that, and it went crazy, wildly viral for them. Again, we'll tell that story in a minute. But first of all, Matt, for those who don't know, where did you come from? What's your background? What's your history? What's the story?
Oh, definitely, man. Well, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. I was too smart for my own good or too dumb to know it, one of the two. And I just messed around my whole life. So in college, just didn't know what I want to be when I grew up. And I just said, screw it, join the military. I went in as an infantry guy, saw some cool guys with beards and, doing all the fun stuff when I was in Iraq in 2007-8. And decided I wanted to do that. So I went and tried out to become a Green Beret and made it and spent the rest of my career in the military and special forces. I was a sniper, special operations terminal attack controller, human intel agent, I guess is the cool way to say it. Did a lot of different things. Was attached to the CIA for some years, working on a project with them. So Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, combat tours, lived all over the Middle East. I speak Arabic and a couple dialects, pretty fluently. It's getting worse, as the time goes on. If I get in an Uber in Nashville, though, I get to practice. But, man, it's been a heck of a ride, man. And, I thought I was going to be doing something similar to what I was going to be doing, my whole life, man. So I, wanted to contract for the agency, get out, travel the world, and just, be a bachelor, I guess. But life throws some things at you. And in 2019, I lost my younger sister, Sarah, to drugs and trafficking. She had gone on a path. The worse the drugs get, the worse the people get, kind of thing, and that plays out all over this country. It's just it's pretty much every family knows somebody that's been affected by this heroin and fentanyl crisis. And my sister, got deep in it. So she was taken on November 5th, 2019, in Memphis, Tennessee, and her body was found in a river in North Mississippi, Christmas Eve, 2019, and so that, of course, just destroyed my family, but it also put me on another trajectory for my life. So I'm sure 2020, hit right after that, and COVID, and man, I was just kind of lost, suicidal, depressed, drinking my face off, doing other things I probably shouldn't have been doing while I was still an active duty, soldier. It messed me up, man. I felt guilty. I felt responsible. Here I am, a Green Beret, CIA guy, Intel, hunt terrorists all over the world. Can't even save my own sister, man. I took that personally. I had to blame myself a lot of days. So, man, I also wasn't religious at that time. I had turned away from God because of what I'd seen in the life I lived, and I realized that was a mistake. So I started praying, man, and life didn't change overnight, but it started to get a little bit better. The clouds started to get a little less dark, and I started searching stuff, and kind of like we talked about earlier, looking at people and charities that were fighting human trafficking.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I'm going to do this. So I Googled how to start a charity. I thought I could fix it. But, what I saw is most charities were fighting trafficking internationally. Nobody, and I didn't really see anyone that was doing stuff here domestically. I learned why later. But, I said, you know what, I'm going to fight it here, and honor my sister and try to stop other people from ending up like her. So I started a charity called Operation Lightshine. And we developed a task force model that kind of solves a lot of the problems, or started to solve a lot of the problems law enforcement faces here in the U.S. by bringing federal, state, and local law enforcement together on a task force to fight human trafficking. But the big mistake we made, and it wasn't a huge mistake, but it was a difficult one, was that we were trying to fund this task force through a charity. And even though I was partnered with the Tim Tebow Foundation, and we had a lot of big supporters like right off the jump. And mind you, I'm still active duty military at this time. It just proved to be a very expensive lift to fund a task force for federal, state, and local law enforcement, right? Even though we didn't have to pay the federal people's bills, we were doing salary replacement for the state and locals. It started to become a lift. And I started to learn a lot more during this process, of course, because it was like an overnight, ingestion into the problems here in the U.S. when it comes not just trafficking, but all the issues, the myriad of issues law enforcement faces to fight trafficking here. And I quickly learned there was a better way to do it when you focus more on the tech side and you give law enforcement what they really need, which is the software, the tools, the intel analysts, the experts, and all the people that can navigate, the internet and technology in order to start saving our kids. Because what I learned is we live in two different worlds as a society now. We live in the physical world where, we all live, eat, breathe, sleep, and then the digital world where almost all of our communications, plans, money, network, everything's coordinated on the internet. The problem is the law for the physical world, it kind of parallels the physical world law with the internet. So it's like it's archaic laws governing internet. So you can sit in the comfort of your own home and you can victimize someone on the other end of the world.
Yeah.
And law enforcement really doesn't have a way to help you. So long story long, last summer, I decided to leave Lightshine, and I came over and took the president role at the Sentinel Foundation. And, during this time of partnering with Tebow and starting these task forces, sure everybody remembers there were crises that, started to blow up overseas, Afghanistan being one of the first ones. And we started mechanisms to start rescuing people from Afghanistan, just good Americans, former intelligence agents, special operators. We came together and we said, hey, how do we get the people that we're abandoning out of this country? How do we get them to safety? And so I'm not going to say his name on TV because he still kind of lives in the shadows, but myself and another gentleman, we set up rat line mechanisms to get people out of the country. And even up to about 6 months ago, that was how the U.S. government got in and out of country for, their negotiations and stuff. So we were able to save quite a bit of people. I never counted, but over 1,000 for sure.
Wow.
And then, but during that time, I started to meet a lot of the people that actually got the job done. Now, I'm not going to say names or talk crap, but there's a lot of guys that pretended like they did stuff there. And then there's a lot of people that made it happen, right? And, I'm sure everybody knows who those social media personalities are. And so we flexed to Ukraine. Ukraine kicked off, and I don't care. The war there is not my expertise. The Russia, Ukraine, political world and the military stuff, that's not my backyard. But innocent people being victimized, so, hey, we have an opportunity to help. So we got the band back together, started rescuing people in Ukraine, and there's some pretty amazing stories and heroic actions of what people did, in that country to save orphans and mostly kids, get them out of the way of the front lines. So, and Sentinel kept coming into those conversations. Tebow introduced me to the team. They were conducting operations in Afghanistan while I was there. They were conducting operations in Ukraine while I was there. And we started, at first we were kind of competition, man, because what most people don't realize is the charity world, you're fighting for money as much as you're fighting for who you're helping, because it costs money to help people, right? So at first they kind of viewed me as a threat, I guess you could say. Like I'm the new guy in the Tebow Foundation's, Rolodex. And so we didn't hate each other, but we didn't really work with each other. We were always just trying to one up each other, I guess is the best way to say it. But through that time, we developed a respect for each other. And eventually they asked me to come over and be the president of the foundation, which I thought was an amazing honor for that. And now my job is to build out the domestic fight for Sentinel. So we're working on task forces getting started in North Carolina, Florida. Had a good conversation with a state rep in Texas to get things going there this morning. Mississippi, Louisiana are on the docket, hopefully next for those conversations, man. So we're just trying to move to wherever we can bring the tech and the expertise and the training to get behind law enforcement so we can start saving our kids, because I think that's one of the biggest failures of our lifetime is what we've allowed to happen to our children and to the most vulnerable people in this country. And no one even notices. No one even seems to care. And I'm not saying people don't care, but because you see the murders, you see the robberies, you see the carjackings, you see, all the things that happen that make the news, that go viral on social media, that people see happen in their neighborhoods and they're calling the sheriff about, you don't see trafficking. Right? And because you don't see it, it's too easy to forget about.
Well, and you're right on that. Before you, I hate to interrupt you on that, but the thing that concerns me, Matt, is a couple of things, because you said a mouthful there. And by the way, folks, those of you watching, dude, I love it. And those of you watching or listening, I told you he's a freaking hero. The dude's a warrior. And the thing that concerns me is there's the crap that comes out, right, about, as you said, there's certain people that are out there who are either have done it or doing it or claim to do it in terms of human trafficking and how they're fighting it. And then the crap comes out, the accusations, the rumors, the speculation, the all the stuff. And some of it's true, some of it's not. And then people say, well, I don't know who to believe, so I'm not going to support. I don't know who to support, so maybe I shouldn't support any of them. And that's a problem. That's tragic, because, we have people in our society who are they're just disappearing. They're just vanishing. And we see these stories so often, come across our reels and our social media that we're like, okay, what's another one? Or there's an Amber Alert that comes up on your phone and you ignore it. But these things are happening under our nose in our communities around us. How do people, before we go any further on any of this, because I know how audiences on podcasts jump in and jump out, is there a good way for people to support what you're doing? Because I can tell you guys, beyond the shadow of a doubt, Matt Murphy, what he's doing with this foundation, with this organization, it's the real deal. Where can people find it and support it? You guys know that I love Patriot Mobile. They are good friends and great patriots. And they realize that Americans are tired. They're tired and frustrated by the stalling economy, the inflation, the endless wars, the relentless assault on our values. And thankfully, folks over at Patriot Mobile, they got your back. They still believe in America. They believe in our Constitution. And I'm so proud over the years to have partnered with them and continue to do it, because Patriot Mobile, they're on the front lines, man. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're fighting for the First and Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, our military and first responder heroes. I want you to take a stand with them on conservative causes and put America first by switching over to Patriot Mobile today. You're going to get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers, because Patriot Mobile, they operate on all three major networks, plus they back their service with a full coverage guarantee. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team will take care of you. They will find the best plan for your needs. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade, and they'll help. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad or call them 972-PATRIOT. You do it right now, you get a free month when you use the offer code CHAD. You know I spell it Chad. Use that offer code and don't get fooled by the other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. They don't, and they can't. So join me. Switch to America's only Christian conservative mobile provider. That's Patriot Mobile. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad. Call them 972-PATRIOT. Get your free month of service today. Use that promo code Chad. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Was pretty suppressed on social media, and that's a whole nother conversation. But Sentinel Foundation on Instagram and Facebook. I think we're working on getting an X and a TikTok just to be out there. But foundationsentinel.org, that's our website. You can check out some of the stuff we do. And then, of course, if you want to support, you can donate. Jason Aldean and his wife, Brittany, are throwing us a golf tournament in October as a fundraiser. They've been amazing supporters of the foundation. Two of my favorite humans. They're great Americans. So we're going to have a big golf tournament this fall, and then a concert. And
was I invited to that? Can I get my people on the phone? Was I invited to that thing?
That was the invite. Actually, we just got the date figured out like 2 days ago, man. So, we got to get some materials and stuff out for that, man. But that's the best way, man. SentinelFoundation.org. Some of the stuff we do is on there. I mean, there's some Fox News articles and stuff you can see about the rescues and things that the team's done, but we try to keep it quiet, man.
I like that.
A lot of people are in this world, given what's happened and I'm not trying to throw smoke. It is what it is. Given what's happened to other organizations and some things that have come out about people involved in them and things like that, a lot of people really want to know, what are you doing? How are you fighting this fight? And it's really easy for us to make our humanitarian rescues public. Like the team just rescued 59 orphans from Haiti who were severely disabled, and probably one of the coolest, rescue operations that I've seen, just how they were able to pull that off in gang territory and get 59 orphans, severely disabled orphans, out of an orphanage and then to another country where they could receive medical care, because one of them had already died by the time the team got there, man. We have an amazing team of Delta operators, special forces guys, intel analysts, law enforcement subject matter experts, that have been in law enforcement investigating trafficking and exploitation, 15, 20 years. We just got an amazing team of heroes, and they like to be quiet, man. Our mission motto is D, not the glory. It's not about Matt Murphy. It's not about the other characters there. It's about the kids. It's about the mission. It's about doing what's right. And, I have a platform, I guess, a little bit, as much as they shadow ban me, to get out there and talk about our mission, but it's not about me. It's about these kids. So we try to keep that deed, not the glory thing at the front of everything we do. So that's probably why a lot of people haven't heard about us.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Because I know that there's a lot of folks out there that in a social media world, they think, I need to be seeing these fantastic stories and going through Instagram, and here's another picture. And it's like, listen, at the end of the day, I think we've bought into this lie that the public thinks that people like you and these foundations are accountable to them. And it's like, no, let us do our job, right? And our job is dangerous. Our job requires some secretive, aspects to it. We can't just reveal everything. We're not out here to make a bigger platform for social media. We're out here to save lives. And I hope people can get that through their heads and remember that this isn't about entertainment. This is about saving people. And 100%. Man, it's crazy, dude. I live in North Houston, and the stories that I hear just right here. I mean, Houston is a hub, right, for trafficking, and it's horrible. The I-45 corridor that goes north-south through Houston, from the border and up, it was one of the main arteries in the United States for trafficking. And we tend to think that this is happening in other places. And I mean, it's insane, the world we're living in, and it's a tragic deal. So I pray people will support you guys, because what you're doing it's not for show. It's not for show. No. Hey, I want you to stop what you're doing and listen to this. Your God-given freedoms are up for the taking, and even worse, those doing the taking, well, they're the same people who are sworn to defend your freedom. See, they think that they can violate your right to protect your own family. They think they can force their delusions onto your children, and they think that they can control the media and hide the truth. But you know what they can't take away? They can't take away self-reliance and peace of mind. Listen, you got water filtration? You should. You got a charged solar generator? You better. You got emergency food on your shelf. You need to get it now, and you need to get it from My Patriot Supply. Listen, having served millions of American families, My Patriot Supply is the most trusted name in survival, and for a dadgum good reason, folks. Listen, go to preparewithchad.com right now. Save $200 on their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. It delivers over 2,000 calories a day, sealed inside practically unpierceable packaging, and it lasts up to 25 years. And did I mention that it's delicious? It actually is delicious. Go to preparewithchad.com, save $200 per kit. Free shipping included. Preparewithchad.com. In today's economic climate, many of us find ourselves facing the challenge of managing our monthly expenses, and high credit card interest rates can trap you in a cycle of debt with balances that persist month after month. Paying only the minimum each month means it could take you years to become debt-free, if ever. And what I want you to do is reach out to American Financing. They're a trusted partner in helping people achieve financial freedom. So if you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity and help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers are saving about $854 a month, which is the equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. You could all use that along with me. Now, the process is straightforward and it's quick. You could close your loan in as little as 10 days, and by acting today, you might not have to pay your next mortgage payment. So it costs nothing to see how much you can save. This opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant to ignore, so call them. 888-675-4090. That's 888-675-4090, or visit AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
I didn't want to be here. I didn't do this just to be cool or be a celebrity. Never wanted to be in this fight, but when I lost my sister, I just felt like, that was that pain to purpose. That was God's calling. He's like, hey, Matt, you're here now, bud, and just doing what I can. And speaking of Houston, we're in talks with a lot of people in the Houston area right now to get a task force going there. Morgan Luttrell, Marcus's brother, congressman type, him and I have been talking about some things. And then I actually was on the phone with the state rep for Houston this morning before the show to talk about some things.
Can you say who?
Fred Frazier.
Say I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And I know a lot of those guys, obviously, because of my involvement here in Texas. But I say the more the merrier, man. Let's get this party started, because as a father of daughters, I'm constantly, and they're out there, man. They're doing their thing. They got their careers. They're not under dad's wing, and so I'm like, hey, I'm checking on them nonstop all the time. You try to get it through their head. It's like, you're not living in the same world. You girls grew up in the woods. This is not that world. And it's a frightening thing. Did you think when you were doing all that stuff, you're a Green Beret, you listed all the stuff you did. You're a contractor. You did some projects with the CIA. So I don't know what I'm talking about. I need more Diet Coke in my life. I need more caffeine. But you're doing stuff for the CIA. I never forget the time I was joking with Clint Emerson. I said, were you like doing CIA assassinations? And he just looked at me and just shook his head like that. He's like, I'm not saying anything. It's like that alphabet agency that shall not be named.
Yeah, right.
Did you at the time, did you ever look, or do you look at it now and go, man, our government is really kind of screwed up? Like these agencies, I'm kind of like, sometimes I feel like I'm sleeping with the enemy. Did you ever have that emotion or feeling?
Oh, all the time. Not even just the enemy. You just realize really how disposable you are. I mean, I look at all the way back to like my first Iraq trip to Solder City. It was pretty dangerous. I was the surge on Solder City time. And, they're sending us out there on in these walking formations down the roads looking for explosives. And then they're like, wait a second. And it's because losing me is doesn't cost them as much as if they lose one of those big multi-million-dollar vehicles. And I'm like, so that's when it first started to kick in. Then you go into special operations, man, you start to see behind the curtain. But yes, it was my time with the agency where I really started to realize this whole thing is messed up. Yeah. Right. And I really believe we have this is an amazing country, greatest country in the history of the earth, in my opinion. But we have systems that have been put in place that have been manipulated and taken advantage of. And I really believe what is the biggest part of the downfall of the U.S. right now is the bureaucracy. It's the people who aren't elected that get appointed to positions. Politicians come and go. They never leave. They just get appointed to the next thing, appointed to the next thing. And if you can, and I'm not trying to be conspiracy theory here, but if I was a bad guy, if I was part of a group that had bad intentions of globalization or destruction of a country, the first thing I would do was go after the bureaucrats, manipulate, blackmail, extort, and control the bureaucracy, because then you control the agencies, you control the Justice Department, you control a lot of things at that point. And you can manipulate the country, you can manipulate information. And I'm just saying, if I was a bad guy, this is what I would do, right? And you could essentially create a shadow government or a deep state inside of a country where the politicians really aren't in control. So if I was a bad guy, that was exactly what I would do. And it really does seem like that's what they're doing and have done for a very long time.
Yeah.
So,
well,
it gets
you look at it like this. I know of certain school districts here in the state of Texas, small town school districts, where Democratic operatives have moved, say, from California, Oregon, Washington State. They've moved to these small towns and they run for school board in these small towns, and somehow they deceive people or whatever, but they manage to get elected and they operate in there. But what you're saying is even more nefarious than that. These are people who haven't run for anything. They just cuddled up to the right person and got appointed. So you look at, Joe Biden says he's not going to finish the race, and now they're going to basically 3,000 elite Democrats in the party are going to pick who their candidate is going to be. They can put it under the guise of mini primaries or these bureaucratic dictatorial decisions that they're going to make. These are not, and I've heard people on social media over and over say, we're not voting for Biden, we're voting for the administration. What do you think that means? Because Biden's the elected one. Kamala is the elected one. Pete Buttigieg is not elected. Merrick Garland's not elected. Alejandro Mayorkas is not elected. These are appointed bureaucrats, and there's 2.5 million of them in Washington, D.C. alone. So, man, you make a huge point on that. These people just cuddled up to the right people, and now they're running it's a shadow government. We see who's actually in control. And then they're going to say that Donald Trump is the threat to democracy. I mean, the level of BS is crazy.
Well, I think that's the most important part of this is you wouldn't be able to get away with it, with what they're doing to the level that they're doing it, if you didn't control the narrative. And if you look at it, and this is not a conspiracy theory, it's just a fact, the same people own everything, right? If you can follow the spider webs of private equity and banks all the way to select few people, and it goes down, and it's incestuous. They own each other. So when you have this, it's everything is monopolized, the media, social media, so it's people like you that do what you do, independent of the big behemoth that allows people to start to wake up and even hear the truth. Fox News is not having me on. CNN is not having me on, right? The first time I remember that Fox and Friends is going to have me on the show. And I think the second they hopped on my social media and saw who I was, I never got a call back. But this, I just tell the truth. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. I just want to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
This is what we should these are the questions we should be asking. And that's dangerous these days. So I'm just going to keep doing it because I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm just trying to make a difference. And hopefully, like you said, you got daughters. I've got 3 daughters. It's terrifying that the type of country that I could be leaving them. And then honestly, man, not to turn this emotional, but it's, everybody that I've had in the service that has died for this country, that joined to fight for this country, that lost their life for this, is I'm living for them too, man. And I'll be damned if I play a part in America falling or becoming something that they didn't die for, right? And so I'm just doing my part, man. And I really hope that more and more people start to go from woke to awake and start to do something, right? Because posting, commenting, liking things, sharing stories, that's great. You get some awareness out there, but there's very few people doing where it matters.
Yeah. And you're doing it. You're doing it. And the thing that I say, you and I haven't known each other long. I've known of you for a long time, but getting to know you, you're just a good dude. You know, like you could just tell when somebody's just a good dude, and it's you're a good dude. And I know your heart's in the right place. And you know, when you come out and you say, "Listen, I love this country. I love what this country stands for. I love." You know, I don't want my service to have been in vain. I sacrifice, as you said, they're going to send you down a road basically to find, IEDs by stepping on one.
Literally.
You realize how expendable you are in this huge war machine that's out there. And I try to explain to people all the time, I'm like, if they'll treat you, you're a government trained, taxpayer funded. They created you. They trained you. They created you to be an elite fighting person, a warrior, a force. And they're willing to toss you out there to be blown to smithereens. What do you think they're going to do to the average citizen, the civilian in America? They'll throw the borders open and they'll allow 21 million people that are unregistered and or illegal into this country to do God knows whatever with no consequences or ramifications. So if they don't care about you, I know they don't care about me. I'm weak, bro. I tore my rotator cuff playing golf. So I know, the only tough thing I've ever done is gotten tattoos. So I know they don't care about me.
Brother, but that's the thing. They don't care about anyone, and it's the machine, right?
Yeah.
And there's two different versions of I don't care. There's the me joining the military saying I'm willing to lay my life down lay my life on the line for this country, for this Constitution, for my people. And then there's another version of this that I think we're living in now, where the country is willing to lay you down for whatever its agenda is, right?
Yeah.
So it's not the people choosing anymore. And you saw that during COVID, a mass exodus to the military. You're seeing it now. No one's joining the military or law enforcement for that matter, because people don't trust what the machine's going to do to them, right? Yeah. People aren't saying, I'm going to lay my life down on the line for America right now. They're probably joining the military because can't pay my bills. I got to go to college. I need insurance for my kids. I guarantee you there's very few people that are saying, doing it for the red, white, and blue with the Toby Keith song playing in the background right now. That's just the truth, man.
And I know there's still, alpha elites that are out there. I know there are those type of men. I know that there are those people that exist still in it. But by and large, I feel like just by the nature of the beast, that's got to be diminishing. It's got to be. Because as you said, I was doing a show in North Georgia the other day, and we walked out of the venue. We were setting up in there. We walked out of the venue, and across the street, it almost looked like a bus line. There were a bunch of guys. It looked like they were waiting on a bus. And Party Foul Steve was with me. He's a Marine. He goes, "What do you think's going on over there?" I said, "Well, maybe they're heading off to basic." And he goes, "Not that bunch of boys." He's like, that's something you might have seen before, but now these guys they're not joining up. And it's a generational thing. So listen, if they're willing to kill me and you, obviously they're willing to kill somebody that they consider to be an enemy of the state, like Donald Trump. There's 6 or 7 reasons. There's psychologists have shown there's like 6 or 7 reasons why you will kill another human being, and one of them is fear. And what I see the left has done is they have instilled fear in the people who listen to them about a guy like Donald Trump. He's a threat to democracy. He's a communist. He's a dictator. He's the embodiment of Hitler. He's a Nazi. He's a fascist. He's going to run tanks down the street. He's a friend of Vladimir Putin. The list goes on of all these things that they've done to say, he's going to make sure that women are rounded up, women and children are rounded up. This is the next iteration of Nazi Germany. So they've created fear, and therefore you got what, by all intents and purposes, at least what they're telling us right now, a 20-year-old bumbling kid manages to get on a roof in Butler, Pennsylvania and take pot shots at the president. And more stuff is coming out about that. And at the time of this taping, this will probably come out in a week. So who knows what's going to be unveiled in the time between now and then. But Matt, people keep asking me, they're like, "Hey, Chad, what's your take on what happened?" And I'm like, listen, I'm not a subject matter expert, but I've been around Trump. I've been to Trump events. I've been 5 feet away from him having dinner. I know what you go through to be near the former president of the United States and the current Republican candidate for president of the United States. There's an element of security there. I tell you what I do know. A 20-year-old kid who's a bumbling idiot doesn't just pop up on a roof and start taking shots with an AR-15 firing 223 rounds at 100. What are we at now? 100 yards, 150 yards? I don't even know.
Yeah, 130 yards.
Yeah, it's a pot shot. I mean, it's easy. I've never shot a deer that close. Everything's been further out. So, what do we know? What happened? I mean, was this just oops? This guy just managed to pull it off because he was that good. What's your take on that?
Well, and this is where it gets extremely, extremely complicated, man. And I think the blessing in the investigation of this is the media. There's cameras and microphones everywhere, right? But also the curse in this is the media, right? And the narrative and what it can be hidden and what can be, altered, artificial intelligence, false evidence, and everything out there, man. So to start this off, I'm trying to be very careful in saying I know for a fact, right? Because there are no facts, and quite frankly, we'll never know the facts.
So when Matt says, when Matt doesn't say I know for a fact, he sort of knows for a fact.
Yeah, exactly.
I said
right.
it. You didn't say it. I said it. Okay.
There is not a doubt in my mind that there were two shooters, if not more.
All right.
In this one, and I'll start there. But the initial setup, there were a myriad of things that were going wrong just from the start. I mean, first, they didn't send the full Secret Service detail. They were augmented with agents from Homeland Security, which is a huge problem in and of itself because personal security details, those people have to be trained, eat, breathe, and sleep that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it is such a intimate environment. And the person that you're protecting is such, obviously like a President Trump, so valuable. The ramifications of him dying are not just, oh crap, a politician died. That could really send our country into civil war. People need to understand, we could be in civil war right now.
Yeah.
You and I could be, with a rifle somewhere else right now, given the things that could have played out, second and third order effects of him getting shot. So the gravity of who they're protecting, you don't send the B team to that, right? And you don't surround the president with inexperienced, untrained, and especially not trained together agents. So, two, the level of security there, the way that they did the security was just a complete, utter disaster in every way, shape, form, or fashion. And, I don't want to throw them all under the bus. I'm sure people were doing the best that they could, but again, they didn't have all of the qualified, trained experts there. They didn't have the time, according to a lot of the reports that I'm reading, to get it set up. Now, from there, you can go two completely different directions with this, right? It was a complete and utter failure, catastrophic failure on every level that allowed this kid to get up there. And that this kid was the one who fired all those shots, and leave it at that. Now, that is everything would have to go wrong, not just in the setup, but then in the execution of this thing. So then you have to start to look, in my mind, okay, that's about the equivalent of winning the lottery twice in the same day and getting hit by lightning, that all of that would go wrong. And then these people would then do all of this stupid stuff after the setup, right? All the way up until letting a kid shoot at the president or letting the president get on stage. So you look at the facts here. This kid was 20 years old. They admitted they knew he was on the premises. They had pictures of him, had videos of him. They watched him walk around the premises with a rangefinder. They watched him range find from the building to the president. They watched him crawl up the roof and crawl around on the roof with a freaking rifle, right? There's videos, almost 10 minutes of this kid being on the roof with a rifle, people in the crowd telling law enforcement, hey, he's got a rifle, hey, he's on the roof. Okay, I don't care how B team or how inexperienced the team was there, or that you just threw them together the day before. The second it's on the radio that there's a kid with a rifle on a roof 130 meters away from, or yards away from the president, why did they let Trump on stage?
Right.
Why was Trump allowed to go on stage? Why wasn't he pulled off stage? And why did they just watch a kid with a rifle on the roof? That is, to me, the beginning of, if it looks funny, if it smells funny, if it tastes funny, it's funny, right? There is no logical reason Trump should have been allowed on that stage, or that kid should have been allowed to crawl around with a rifle for 10 minutes on a roof that close to the president, right? That is just, if people, I can't tell people what to believe. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but there's no reason. So then that starts, okay, why would he be allowed to be on the roof for that long with a rifle? Why would he be allowed to crawl into a position where he could take shots at the president? And why would he be allowed to shoot at the president before he was decisively engaged? Right? Why? So when you look at it, I think the best evidence, and also the evidence that wouldn't hold up in court right now, just given the way the law works, is the audio evidence. There are, for a fact, 3 different rifles that were fired that day, potentially a 4th. And I've watched every audio analysis of this.
And you've shared the audio with me. Like you texted it over to me. I listened to it, and I'm like, it's a fact. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, it's there. So I can say for a fact there were multiple rifles shot, minimum of 3, potentially 4. Because there's one that's disguised in the second volley that does not sound the same, but there's not enough, because that microphone was built to take Trump's speech in. It wasn't built in to analyze, the audio of a ballistic, shot, right? So with the audio we have, and the best evidence that's presented so far, there are 2 different distances, 25% distance difference in the first volley and the second volley of fire. But then there's a shot right at the end of the second volley fire. And if people go to my Instagram, it's up. It's also, I forget the guy's screen name who initially did it. There's a 3rd shot that's hidden right at the end that is very possible another shot from another location, similar distance. And then you have the sniper round, or the sniper fire that took out the shooter. But that was, of course, the very last thing after about, what is it, about 5-6 seconds have gone by that happened.
Yeah.
Why did they not engage? It's mind blowing to say the least, right? So when you look at the distance and the reports, this is where it gets into I know there was a second shooter, but where he was and how this transpired, I'm not sure. Because obviously, I'm sure everybody's seen the memes and the jokes, and God forbid the testimony. Now the Secret Service director saying there was a sloped roof, right, and that we couldn't put the team up there, right?
Right.
Man, yes, the memes have been great, but the sad thing is that they claim to have put a sniper team in that building. That makes you scratch your head, because the chief for that local police department came out and said we were on traffic duty. Wait a second, right? So he's like, we weren't on there. That makes it a little more interesting. So who was the sniper team that she claimed, if indeed there was a sniper team, who was that team while we're in that building? You have videos, and we've seen them, even in group chats and stuff that we've shared, where it looks pretty logical that there's a person, unless it's AI generated, which we haven't been able to show any evidence of that. There's a person on the water tower. Then you have videos of people right after the shooting talking about people on the water tower. And I think I've seen 2, 1 for sure, 2, someone saying the person on the water tower was shooting, right? Now, of course, given the dynamic that day, you can't just take that as, 100% fact. They probably thought that or perceived that, but they definitely did see someone on the water tower. And then we have another video kind of showing someone was there. Then, so at this point, there's 2 potential locations in my mind that the shot could have come from. I'm starting to lean a little bit more away from the water tower as being a point of origin for shots, and looking more at that building for that delay, being muffled inside of that building, that the shots potentially came from that building or an adjacent building, but then you still have that whole wood line all the way over to the water tower. And the way that we're trained, in sniper school is finding those perfect paths, in the woods where all the trees line up and you can't be seen, but that bullet can fly straight to your target, right? So that shot could have come from anywhere from that building all the way over to the water tower. and been somewhat on the trajectory needed, to hit President Trump. There are a lot of places that shooter could have been and popped up real quick to take that shot. Then you have the infamous video of the lady behind the president, that for a while there, people were saying she was the assistant director of the FBI. God, I hope they're not that dumb,
Right.
behind him. But she most definitely, in my opinion, did some type of signal that brought that shot that hit President Trump in the ear in. Because it was a volley and the little side of the head salute, maybe a C you can't see because of the thing, but she's stone cold looking at Trump, does this, and the next thing you know, right in his ear.
Wow.
And then she smirks as he falls to the ground, if not smiles, cools a cucumber, pulls out her phone and starts getting pictures as he's falling to the ground. Like that doesn't even make sense. So,
and then just disappears into the wind, right?
Right. No one knows who she is, where she is. No one's identified her. That I've seen. I try not to spend all my time looking at videos and on social media, but I have not seen anyone, identify her. So the other thing is the trajectory of the round that went by President Trump's ear. This is a whole nother can of worms because you have to have your camera set on a very specific shutter speed to be able to catch the flight path of a bullet.
Right.
The New York Times photographer had his camera set on that shutter speed on President Trump's podium. Was he expecting a bullet to come in? Or maybe he was just hoping this is the time they try to kill him? I don't know. And he was going to get that shot that, made him a millionaire. I can't answer that one, but it's weird that he set the shutter speed to that point. But then
that's fascinating. Because when you look at that, you can clearly see there's the bullet path. It's a picture of the bullet.
Literally. And if you took photos with a normal camera or video, you would not be able to see that bullet. You have to have that shutter speed right to be able to see something moving that fast, through the air. So then you have the bullet, the actual bullet in flight. The trajectory of that round, it's pretty much flat. Going past his ear and then before it got to his head and then, after it hits his ear, it's pretty much flat. So did that come from a roof or a water tower? Where did that shot come from? That's the $1 million question is where did that shot come from? Right. Now you cannot tell me that this kid who is 20 years old, who there's reports that have come out that he got kicked off of the high school rifle team, that he was such a bad shot, had a couple years of becoming a pro shot, 10 minutes of crawling on the roof, that he was able to set up in plain view of the Secret Service and then take a perfect center of the side of the head headshot. Because I'm sure we've all seen the videos now. Had Trump not turned his head, that was a perfect center of the head headshot. Now, I'm not going to go and say that kid probably couldn't hit Trump's body at that distance, but to take a perfect center of the head headshot and then shoot a bunch of other people and not have one more round even close to accurate on Trump doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
Especially with as quick as he had to fire. So there are just so many.
Let me give another perspective on that again, because I'm not. To the untrained eye, which of course is mine, all the things you brought up. Like I'm watching this thing. I was in Oklahoma. I was fixing to do a show. I was fixing to do a live show, and I get a phone call saying the president's been shot. So I jump in front of a TV and I start watching things. First thing that I saw was the lady who is behind, and this before any speculation. I'm just watching I'm like, that's weird that response, that lady had that response. I could see it on the news. Right behind him. Just cool as a cucumber, goes down, gets her phone, comes right back up with it. There were a couple of responses that I watched, but there were various things like that stood out to me. But let me just say, as a hunter, I can remember in Colorado a few years back. I'm literally crawling, on just bringing with my elbows, and I've got a rifle. And I come over a ridge, I find a herd of elk, and I line up a shot at about, 250 yards. And you know how it is. If you're hunting big game or you're hunting at all, you get a little bit of that heartbeat. There's some pressure. There's some adrenaline that's going there. You want to make the shot right. You're trying to sight in. You've looked through enough scopes in your life to know that you want to get the reticle just right. You want the right distance because sometimes that thing can kind of get a little weird on you. And you're a little bit nervous because this is your shot. This is the one you're going to take. And I haven't been to sniper school. I try to breathe right. I try to do trigger depression the right way. All these, but I'm not trained. I just grew up in the woods shooting things.
Yeah.
To tell me that a kid climbed up on that roof, and this is not an elk or a deer. This is a human being, not just any human being. It's the former president of the United States. You're shooting into a crowd. There's security around you. You have to suspect there's going to be return fire at some point in time. And to make those shots, it's just unheard of. None of that makes any sense whatsoever. Something else is going on. All right, so, the guy goes up on the roof. Nobody knows who that guy is. They tell us that he had no ID on him, but within like a matter of half an hour, they've done like DNA testing on this kid to identify who he is. They find bomb parts in his car. There's a detonator in his pocket. At this stage in the game, I don't know what's speculation or what's rumor, what's hearsay or conspiracy or truth. I still contend with all of these things. If they could do all of that and then sweep it under the rug, or at least attempt to, even in front of our faces with audio and video and all the stuff going on, that they're going to try it again. I mean, what do you think? What's your thoughts about what, in light of what you're saying, what could happen next?
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is you're not going to let a man that you tried to kill get in the most powerful seat in the world.
Right.
Because not only is he talking about draining the swamp, but he's going to come at you with everything he's got, as he should, rightfully, legally should, right? So that's what scares me the most, is that if this was an inside job, and I believe that it was at some level, somehow, there was more than two shooters, or there were at least two shooters, and it's an inside job, then he is still at risk. Mm-hmm. He is still there's still grave danger for President Trump. So that, with all that being said, and there's multiple recordings too from people very close to Trump's camp, from Vivek too, saying they're not going to let him in office. Right. So what does that mean? Do they kill President Trump or try to kill President Trump again? Do they do something to destabilize the country? I mean, do we enter into some kind of chaos, World War III? Are they going to, all stops? Because right now, the way it sits with Kamala, being the candidate, they lose, right? Yeah. And in my opinion, they've done too much. They've pushed the justice system too far. There's too much at stake for them to lose and to not have their puppet sitting in the presidency, because we all know for sure that Joe Biden was not running this country.
No, not at all. Bureaucrats were running it. You made that point, and it's so true. And what are the chances that some kind of chaotic event pops off that we devolve into some form of martial law? Have you thought about that?
We have. And that's what's scary. What a lot of people don't realize is just how fragile our existence is and how much we rely on. We live in a time period, this generation, this period of life, we are living in the most comfort that humans have ever lived in human history, at least the written history that we have. We rely on the system. We all do, right? I mean, yeah, sure, I have a stash of survival food and protection, and I've thought this out, and I've tried to prepare my family as best as I can. I'm not rich. I run a charity. Or I'm one of the guys who runs a charity. I'm not rolling in the dough. And so I've done the best I can to hopefully, take care of my family. Things get weird, but majority of America relies on Kroger and Publix.
Yes,
Kroger and Publix, something happens to supply chain, they're hungry. Most of America has not roughed it. If the AC goes out or the heat goes out, or, let's be honest, the network goes down, I don't have money. I can't contact anyone. I can't do anything. So we live in a very fragile existence in this comfort, and all of the systems that we rely on are extremely vulnerable, not just to nation state actions, war, like country on country warfare, but some some hacker's computer or a team of global vigilantes, that sees things one way, they could shut all these systems down. So there are so many possibilities, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist by any means, but the reality is we live in a very fragile existence, and at any point something can happen. Case in point, look at what happened with CrowdStrike.
Right.
And
exactly.
Packet, right? There's not a doubt in my mind that something fishy is there, because here's the truth. Before any packet ever touches critical infrastructure, it is thoroughly tested, frontwards, backwards, in every way you can possibly test that packet in a mirrored system to make sure on upload things are fine. You're not going to tell me that some bad packet of critical infrastructure that affects the global community was uploaded and they had no idea.
Right.
There's just more there, right? And you can go down all the rabbit holes with, previous things with Trump and Ukraine and then, private equity firms that are attached to and own that. But at the end of the day, that just goes to show you a packet, whether it was maliciously uploaded or accidentally uploaded, which is almost unbelievable. Like most things in life, look at what it did to the world, to flights, communications, access to bank accounts. So I hope that was the wake-up call for most people of how fragile our existence is and how much we rely on systems. Most Americans don't know what it's like to be cold or too hot or to be hungry or to go without. Most Americans cannot do it on their own. Speaking the majority here, we rely on the system. There are very few of us, that can function without it and have the intestinal fortitude or life experience to be able to thrive in some type of environment where if all of this around us collapses, we'll be okay. And that's a scary part,
Well, I tell people all the time, say, man, I don't want to talk about politics and I don't want to talk about this cultural. And I'm like, you better start talking about it. Because, I mean, listen, we just saw with Hurricane Beryl that just hit
in our culture.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. And we just saw with Hurricane Beryl that hit South Texas. I mean, people in Houston didn't have power for a week. And people did die. But, I mean, people were losing their minds because it was 100 degrees and they didn't have an air conditioning in their house. So, yeah. It's
scary, man. And there's examples of just how fragile it is and how people behave, from the looting to the rioting to the helplessness, the woe is me crowd, that just want to, instead of doing something about it, complain. But man, that has been probably the most frustrating thing for me in my life, especially for what I've chosen to dedicate my life to when it comes to fighting, human trafficking, child trafficking, child exploitation, to just speaking up against what's happening in this country and in our global community. It's people, I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to think about it. And I blame the social media for that. You have a lot of people that live in the echo chambers, mutual friends of ours and conservative people that see all the things, stay informed. But there's a danger to that too. You can live in this fear, right? That of this clouds always over your head that things are going to go wrong. And then all the opposite end of the spectrum, you can be just completely oblivious to anything and watch puppy videos and funny reels all day long, right? And people are just too scared to address the truth. And that is really where I've just been trying to tell people to just wake up and start spending more time in the real world. Because, the people don't like to hear facts these days, and they don't like to admit that they might have a problem. Because look at what social media does to people. Look at how much time people spend on social media. You can get the same affirmation and dopamine hit feeling like you did something, right? People will get the same feeling they did something if they share a reel about human trafficking or comment on a reel about human trafficking or kids with cancer or, anything that's happening wrong out there. You can get that same dopamine hit, that same effect, that same feeling of I did something in a world that doesn't even exist. Your phone goes dead. Social media is dead. All of your accounts, all of your videos, all of your, whatever, it's gone. Then, now you're here. And people have just, for the majority have just stopped doing things here where we live, right? Yeah. And where we exist. And so a lot of people say this metaverse is this thing that's coming and we're all going to be in our homes, living online, staring through some, augmented reality screen. That's where we're headed. Well, I would argue and say we're already there, because most people, their relationships, their interactions, their thoughts, their efforts, their attention is to be in this metaverse already. Content creation.
Yeah.
I got to get out. We've already been brainwashed. I mean, you have daughters. I've got daughters. My girls, and I hate this, but the world we live in, if they didn't have their phone, they wouldn't have an existence.
Yeah.
And when it comes to friends and entertainment and all these things, it's terrifying.
Yeah. It's a wake-up call, dude. It's a wake-up call. And I know you've been shadow banned. I've been shadow banned. Trying to get a message out there is hard to do when these platforms we're talking about are shutting down what we believe to be the truth. So, man, stay strong. Hang in there. I want people to support you and listen to you and follow you on the socials. Let's use it while we can. It's a tool.
Amen.
It's a tool. It's not a life. It's a tool. And that's what we have to remind people. And the truth is out there if people want to go find it. And I think you're telling the truth, man. So,
well, I appreciate it. And again, on that shadow ban thing, I have been shadow banned since I started fighting human trafficking, right? And if you, like, when the video went viral, the only reason my video went viral, like you said earlier, was that screen record. No one, if you can't, you have to type my full name in to even try to find me,
right?
On social media. When the video went viral, I didn't even do anything on Facebook. Facebook took all my privileges away and then buried my account. Instagram hid my account and then put a disclaimer on me, and I didn't even go viral on Instagram, right? And, it was cool. I got, new followers and some awesome people that came into my life through that. So there is good for social media. It is a valuable tool, but it's not life. And, I'm just going to try to keep fighting. I'm fighting in the shade, right? Kind of like that Leonidas quote, man. Yeah. And hopefully more and more people will start to wake up, and we can come together and start to write the course that this country is on. And, President Trump is, I hate to say it right now, and the system as it is, he's our only hope.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get in office, it's, I don't.
Katie bar the door. I mean, it's bad. Yep. It's a bad situation. So.
Yep.
Brother, I appreciate you. I want to get together with you soon, man. Maybe at a golf tournament or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm actually probably coming down to Houston here pretty soon because, we're trying to get a task force going there. And, between Dallas and Houston, we want to get something in Texas to start saving kids. And
give me a call. Shoot me a text either way. If you're in the area and you can carve out, an hour, I'd love to have you right here. We'll hang out some more and we'll record some more. We'll get this world fixed, man. Between me and you, I guarantee it. No problem.
Oh, yeah. We got a lot of great people around us, brother.
Brother, I appreciate you, Matt. And take care of yourself. Be safe. All your travels, all the stuff you're doing, man. I'm praying for you. And I don't say that flippantly. I am praying for you because you're doing the work of the kingdom of God. And I'm thankful for that. And you're a good man. And I appreciate you. And we're gonna encourage everybody to support you everywhere we can. So, Matt, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you, brother. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. You know where you are, you know why you're here. We're having a good time, man. The world is melting down, burning down. We're in the middle of the apocalypse. Who knows what's going to happen next? Social media is wild. Just absolutely wild. And you know what, Shai, you know what I love the most is watching people clutch their pearls when I make jokes about certain things. I mean, everybody, it's like, listen, the days for being sensitive and thin-skinned and offended by everything, that's over with. It's over with. It's time to suck it up. I know you want to be nice and kind to everybody, and that there's a time and a place for that, but let me tell you, we got to call things the way they are. And the truth is just absolutely offensive. And if you've spent your whole life with zero common sense or lacking any abilities to think critically, well, what's happening in our world, it should offend you. It's going to offend you. It's going to stretch you. So it's time to toughen up because tough days are coming. I want you guys to go to where podcasts are offered. Leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars is what we deserve. The review, say whatever you want to say. I don't care. Just leave one. It helps us out, and it doesn't cost you anything but a couple of minutes of your time to just tell us what's on your heart. So go do that. I greatly appreciate that, and share these episodes with your family and friends. That's how we grow and do what we do in this world of social media and platform censorship. The throttling is real, and you guys know the drill. So I want to welcome one of my favorite Canadians, one of my favorite people to the show. He's got a long list of accomplishments, but he's He's a battle-hardened warrior. He's a guy who's seen it all. He's done some things, and he's going to share some insight with us today. I'm happy to have a conversation with my buddy Dallas Alexander. Dallas, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Before we get into heavy stuff, you obviously were Canadian Special Forces. I say obvious like everybody knows, but anybody that knows you, you're well known for being Canadian Special Forces. We'll talk about that. But you're a musician. You kind of went over to the world of the crazy world of entertainment. Tell me your journey a little bit. Let's talk little bit about your backstory, where you came from, what you've been through, what you've done, kind of where you're at right now, and I want you to tell me how you got into the music stuff, because that's what matters to me. Forget the world, let the world burn down. I want to talk about music a little bit.
Let it burn. I came from a tiny little place in kind of east Alberta, Canada, so just above Montana. For those folks that don't know where all our provinces are. A little indigenous community. We call them Métis settlements in Canada, which means I'm like a half and half. Just like a little village town, thousands and thousands of acres around it, and like only about 300 people. Grew up there, spent my whole life there at least until I finished high school, just barely. Played hockey for a few years, and then I joined the military to try and get into our special operations, and eventually I stumbled my way into that.
Is that like a prerequisite in Canada? Like if you're growing up, male or female, you got to play hockey, right? Mm-hmm. That's a thing.
Yeah, or you get kicked out of the country.
Yeah, that's like being a Mormon in Utah. It's just like what you are. Yeah. You have to do it, or they'll run you out of there.
Yeah.
I was born. I didn't live, but I was born in the Northeast, and for the few months that my parents in the Northeast U.S. My brother had taken up hockey, and we didn't stick around in the Northeast where it was cold enough to play hockey long enough he was becoming a pretty good hockey player. So I always think if we'd have stayed in the Northeast, maybe, I don't know, maybe I would, instead of baseball, I would have gone the hockey route. But do you still have all your teeth?
I don't know how. I didn't wear a mouth guard for most of junior. It's fighting every game, but somehow I got all my teeth.
That's funny. I watch, what's the show with Shorzy in it and all Canada oh gosh, it's a funny show. I can't think of it. It's just, I watch it all the time. I've watched every episode and it's just crazy. But that's just such a funny, just kind of the way they go at each other. But
I don't know why.
A lot of it's
I don't know why I can't think of it right now.
It's totally, it doesn't matter. Just off the top of my head, thought of that when I was thinking about hockey. But you jumped in, you went in the military, and so you went in with the goal of just trying to pursue special forces.
Yeah, that was the only reason I joined. I heard about the unit from a guy I was working in the oil field with, in between hockey seasons, and I didn't believe him at first. I didn't know we had a counterterrorism unit. And then when I confirmed it on the dial-up internet, I was like, I was like, that's what I want to do next.
Yeah, nobody ever thinks about the Canadian border and counterterrorism in Canada and things like that. Like, there's a funny YouTube clip out there of a comedian who does a thing about he is the border patrol for the northern border of the U.S. and he's the only guy. He's the only border patrol agent. He said you just got to be really fast and move across the border. But you did that, and then your team, correct me if my numbers are wrong here, but your team is responsible for the longest recorded kill shot for a sniper team, right? In the military? I mean, is that military, all militaries, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it was a world record. Longest confirmed sniper kill, 2.2 miles.
2.2 miles. Would you take a shot like that? When your team takes a shot like that, are you pretty confident on the accuracy of that thing? I mean, or you're like, yeah, we're dialed in.
We were pretty dialed in when that happened.
Wow.
We were on the ninth floor of this building on the river in Mosul, looking over where ISIS was and supporting an Iraqi push. So we were like perpendicular to the fight. Yeah. And at first we were just shooting, get them into buildings so we could call an airstrike. And then we're like, wow, we're really dialed in here. And this one airstrike was kind of a dud, and this guy was coming out the backside of a building and gave us enough time that we knew he'd be stationary once he got on the ground. We actually sent 2 rounds. So I was a spotter on one gun. So I gave the shooter his wind call and elevation. When he was on, I said, send it. And we sent our round, and the sniper team right beside us, which was part of our sniper det, 6 feet over or whatever, sent one at the same time. So 9.9 seconds later, just about 10 seconds when it got there, I called hit on the spotting scope, and then they called hit. I was like, no, that was ours. We didn't really know. It was a team effort, but yeah.
That's still, man. I mean, when you calculate that, I want somebody to get in their car and drive 2.2 miles and just think about that's how far that projectile traveled over desert sands. I mean, from the moment the round leaves the rifle to makes impact 10 seconds. I mean, that's wow. That's insane. I love watching these guys who do this long range shooting stuff. I watch the videos, and I've tried my hand at some stuff. When I say that, I mean like 1,000 yards. That's nothing compared to what professionals are doing. It's insane when you think about the distance of doing that. But suffice it to say, a little bit about that world of being a sniper. You know a little bit about that. When you factor in, and again, I promise everybody, we'll get to the music part of it. We will get to the music part of it. When you factor in what happened on July 13th, Butler, Pennsylvania. You got what we think we know is a 20-year-old kid gets on a metal building with a slightly sloped roof, 130 yards away, maybe.
Slightly sloped according to who?
Yeah, according to Cheadle, the director of the Secret Service. At least at the time of this recording, she's in a hearing right now. She may not be the director for much longer, but so that's the pile of excuses come rolling out of that deal. You made a video. You're walking down the road, you're walking down the street, and you're giving your assessment on that thing. What was your assessment of it? And then I want to ask you in a minute, what were people's response to your assessment? What's your take on what happened? I mean, based on the crazy information that's piling in, some we know, some we don't know, some we can confirm, some we can't. The speculation, the conspiracies, all that. What's your take on July 13th?
Yeah, I think my take stays the same as it was day one. And actually immediately, I was in Nashville and I was out and I saw it come up on a TV screen, like in the restaurant I was in. And as soon as I saw, you could see them labeling, and I was just kind of reading it behind somebody. Immediately, it made no sense that roof and that building was not secure being that close. And then I saw a water tower on the map as well. I was like, those would be the first two things I'm concerned about. And it was just a snapshot from an aerial photo. And I saw a little bit more about the story after I got back to the hotel, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I think that 20-year-old kid with an AR had some help from someone who knew what was going on. And I wasn't pointing any fingers at a particular agency or group or organization. It was just, I think someone that knew what was going on helped out. And it's actually the rest of it I said, and I made a couple other videos days after. I'm like, they're trying to just say, well, it's incompetence and all these things. I'm like, I don't believe that. Some of the other stuff that happened after the shots were fired, maybe, because it looked like there was some fairly incompetent people down there tactically. But now that days are passing and things are just getting more and more suspicious, it seems almost confirming what my initial thoughts were.
Well, when you see a, quote, Secret Service agent who is a 5'5" short and squat female who can't figure out how to put her sidearm back into a holster in a moment of, I don't know, post-duress situation, and they're tugging at their blazers and trying to get their sunglasses back on properly, that's incompetence. That's incompetence. Yep. That's one thing. But when we now find out that this, again, I'd say if it's crooks, if it's this kid is flying drones over the spot, not long before the president takes the stage, you have, I mean, this is just, you're a subject matter expert. I know nothing about this stuff, but to an untrained eye, there's a water tower, there's a building 125 yards away that's unsecured. For 10 minutes, there's video of a kid climbing up there, getting into position in a prone position behind a rifle. He's gonna, and they're just sitting there watching this guy. This starts to look like this was a setup deal. Would you go so far as to, we say an inside job. I mean, could we say that some of these alphabet agencies out there or somebody on the inside is trying to kill Donald Trump?
It's really starting to look that way. like you said, with the drone, I think he was spotted with a rangefinder earlier in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, you don't need to be a professional in anything tactical to realize how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
I said it since the start that you could put a kid down at a place Call of Duty and he'd be like, that roof right there and the water tower, cover those. Like,
Yeah, like well, let's get some eyes on that. And then they're watching him. I don't know. Dallas, I shoot large animals every year. And, I know these guys who'll go out to these game ranches and, some of these deer that they shoot, they probably walk up and eat food out of your hand and you just put the gun up to their skull and pop them. I don't believe in that. I don't, that's not hunting to me. I don't know that I've ever killed a large animal in less than 200 yards. So, in fact, I know for a fact I haven't. To me, that's an easy shot, especially when you figure the quality of glass and optics that's out there these days, the ease of use. Did I read something that this kid did not even have optics on the rifle? That it was iron sights on that? Did I read that?
I heard it was a red dot, just like not magnified red dot, like you would use in a CQB or something.
Yeah, which is something if it's up close and personal, but if you're shooting at 125, 130 yards, I want something a little better than a red dot.
For sure.
And now we're starting to get audio of things that said, that give evidence that there was more than one shooter. Have you given any credence to any of that?
Yeah, I just started to see that as well. Now, I mean, if the kid got shot, then there's obviously at least two shooters.
Right.
But yeah, they're starting to... Some things are coming out. The problem is I don't know what I can even believe on the internet. Like, here's the audio ballistically analyzed. Okay, did someone just make that, or is that true? All I know, like when I first heard the video, the very first one I think that came out, the shots, it didn't make sense to me. That because they weren't all, in my opinion, just like I think he had a 5.56. And they sounded different. And then the counter sniper reaction on the roof, I found very strange. But that video wasn't in context with the other sniper group either. So I don't know, man. The internet, I don't know what to believe.
I know you don't know what to believe anymore. That's the problem. I mean, that's the scary thing. And it's so quick we jump to conclusions and we're like, oh yeah, look, that's the assistant FBI director behind. And it wasn't. I mean, I saw that picture, they were saying this was the assistant FBI director, the woman who was behind Trump. And I was like, no. Now we don't know who that woman is, at least at the time of this taping. She was kind of into the wind. She seemed cool as a cucumber when she reached down, grabbed her phone. She made some kind of signal before the shots were fired. Dude, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
That if this is true, you served, you worked, correct me if I'm wrong. You worked on the presidential detail in Canada, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you go into an event like this? I mean, what's the strategy? What's the prep? What's the what's the intel ahead of time? Walk me through that a little bit, if you can.
Yeah, I think the basics are just like you make sure the area is secure prior. Go through anything that could be a threat. I mean, pick up the obvious places first, like that rooftop that's 150 yards away and a water tower that overlooks everything.
Yeah.
And like you do your best with what you have for, manpower, but it's still is far more thorough than what I saw there.
Yeah.
And if
it's a 2 mile shot, I understand you didn't secure that.
That's what I mean. I'm like, okay, if the shooter was 2 miles away in a building that was, in another county, like, okay, you could say we missed something there. But this was the closest place. Like it was, when you look at the layout, it was like, if you're not going to secure that, I don't know what the point of even being there is. You might as well just send Donald Trump on his own.
And it's kind of like that's what you got. I mean, I didn't like, people when I made a post about it, I think the night of, there were a lot of people who said, well, thank God for these Secret Service agents. Now we're finding out that maybe they weren't even secret. Some of them were not Secret Service agents. Thank God for their quick response. And my response to those people, and I wasn't trying to be mean, I just said their response was shit. It was really kind of horrible. I mean, yeah, okay, they jump on top of him after he goes down, after he's been hit. And then he takes the time, the line, let me get my shoes, which again, I find some humor in that Trump's got to take the time to find his shoes. And then he's like, wait a minute. He sticks his head up above everybody, does the iconic fist pump, says fight, fight, fight. And then again, I've been with Trump. Trump is a tall man. He's 6'2". He's a big presence. He's a large man, which makes him a pretty easy target. And you got a 5'6" woman who's there with her little bun ponytail right there holding him. I mean, it's another clear headshot. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that didn't happen when Reagan was shot in 81. They covered him up and got him the hell out of there. This was a slow response. And to make him stop and make a political statement, what was your take on that?
I mean, I think he's probably glad he did stop and do it now.
Yeah.
But tactically at the moment, no, you can watch the videos and he's exposed for multiple seconds on and off, just standing there like from multiple angles before they really knew what was happening or if there was multiple shooters. Yeah, I don't think in terms of VIP protection, the response was not stellar.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think it was good at all. And again, I know people in the Secret Service. There's some good men and women out there. Me personally, I'm on record. This is not Dallas saying this, so the pushback comes to me. You guys have heard me say many, many times, I don't like the idea of females in a combat situation. If I'm being protected or somebody as important as the president is being protected, I think you put the best of the best, the absolute best out there. I don't know that a 5'5" female is the best in terms of that. And not saying they don't have roles to play in certain areas, but I don't like that situation. I mean, when he came out for the Republican National Convention, he had some heavy duty dudes with him at that point. So, that's my controversial take on that. I don't think it should be controversial. I want the best of the best. And again, a 5'5" woman that can't even find her damn holster, I don't think that's the best. So, and I mean, it becomes a meme. You see this comedy of errors and you can't help but make fun of this shit. So it's sad because the ramifications of if Trump doesn't move his head, a quarter of an inch in that moment, who knows on a world scale what we're plunged into in the United States, much less the free world. How are you kind of got, you're around, you're out, out and about, you travel to the States a lot. How are, that's a weird question, I guess, but how are the people surrounding you in Canada? Like your friends, colleagues, the people, what was their take on this deal?
Well, lots of them are actually ex-snipers as well.
Yeah.
And they have the same opinion. It's just, it's too strange. It's too obvious. There's too much incompetence to just blame it on that. Just to have this, this young guy wander in, know exactly the roof, those closest wouldn't be secured, or, maybe I'll just check it out, but I'm going to have a gun with me. Like, none of it makes any sense.
No. It's wild. I mean, you look at this stuff and you're like, what's going to happen next? Like I've said over and over again, I think that if it was that easy, or if they were able to set it up that easily and it is an inside job, then what's to keep them from taking another shot at him, 2 or 3 more shots? Let's do it till we get it right. Do you think that there's too much out there at this point for them to do that? Or do you think there's a chance that could happen?
I think either way, if I was in charge of security, Donald Trump, it would be beefed up to the max for the next, 6 to 8 months.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I wish they could put him in a bunker somewhere. I mean, Joe Biden campaigned from his basement. Maybe we could just let Trump finish out the next, 4 months in a bunker somewhere and keep him protected. But Trump ain't that guy.
I don't think he would do it. No.
Any dude that gets shot at and whatever happens to his ear, whether that was shrapnel or he actually was shot, I don't know. I'll go with the narrative and say that the bullet did the job in terms of wounding his ear. The dude has the presence of mind who says, let me get my shoes. That's a different sort of person, man.
Let me get my shoes and let me take this picture here. Really quick.
That's just a different kind of cat, in my opinion. It's so, I don't know. I'm convinced in my heart of hearts that this was an inside kind of deal. I mean, I think everybody at this point, they've analyzed this ad nauseum and heard from the experts such as yourself. And it's like, we're living in some crazy freaking times, dude. And who knows what's going to happen next. I'm sure that, in your community of friends and brothers, you guys have got to, those guys have got to crack a beer and say some things that you probably haven't said publicly yet. Just been like, those guys have all got to be like, oh, okay, holy shit.
There's some conversation.
Come on.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep from like really speculating down a rabbit hole and just say like, okay, here's where I could be considered, an expert to some degree. I mean, I retired 2 years ago now and just play music, but I did it for a long time. When I first got in the military, I was a sniper in like a reg force, and I was a sniper in special operations, and I did that for most of the career until I was in like surveillance right at the end. So I've done all this for most of my life. And even without going down any, particular rabbit hole, just to me, it seemed so obvious that someone who knew what was going on helped out.
Yeah. And it's sad that that's the world we're living in. Did you see the video where and I just see clips of it. I haven't heard the analysis of this yet, but there's so many clips of that chain link fence between security and where that building was, and they're ramming it with a police cruiser so they can get through. Have you seen that video?
No. I thought I watched
they're ramming. Yeah, there's so much crap out there that you don't know. It's just we're inundated with this stuff. But there's a video of them ramming that fence and the pole with the police cruiser so they can break through and security can run over to that building. But in the meantime, there's some guy up there in sweatpants who's checking out the scene, taking pictures, and he's up there before anybody. And then he takes off and he's into the wind. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy at this point. And again, this ain't no Bob Lee swagger. This isn't Mark Wahlberg who's 6 city blocks away, or a mile away, who's firing a shot from inside of a building through an open window into into Trump. This guy was just right over there. You probably could have made that shot with a 9mm handgun. And slung it. And here's a crazy thing. Here's a 20-year-old kid who doesn't know how to shoot by all historical evidence. And he's up there doing that with a red dot. And he's going to take a headshot, which if he doesn't turn his head, it's a good headshot. Doesn't go center mass, doesn't go for the body. And they're firing, 7-8 shots. And it's wild. What's happening next? What happens next, man? I mean, America's crumbling. Canada, you got Justin Trudeau up there. Is Trudeau going to get reelected up there? What's going to happen with that dude?
I think he is going to at least not be reelected. He's done enough damage now. I know lots of people that have, say they were on his side that are now no longer. It's just up here. It's ridiculous. Up here, it is ridiculous. We've been trending towards Trudeau communism for a while.
Oh, and it's bad. It's bad. I mean, that dude, he's next level. We think we have it bad here. I mean, these guys like Trudeau and over in California, Gavin Newsom, I mean, these guys are full-blown communists. I mean, these are disciples of Xi Jinping. They'd fit right in China. When I'd come up and do shows in Western Canada and I'd be in, British Columbia, be in Alberta, I was like, you guys maybe consider Wexit. Like, y'all get the hell out of here because y'all are pretty good folks over here.
I'm from Alberta. We would take it.
I'm like, I could see myself. I don't like cold weather, but I could see myself moving up here if you guys decided to pull away. And I could learn to put a on the end of every sentence and drink, some of that beer that's really damn strong. I could figure out a way to shield myself from the cold, but I don't want to live in Toronto or Montreal or anything like that. Is there still any speculation of any of that kind of talk up there? See, like in Texas, we're always talking about Texit. We're always talking about seceding from the U.S. We kick it around. We push legislation and things like that. Is there still talk about that in Canada?
Not really. I think more of it was over the last little while, just some of the provinces saying like, okay, we're just going to disregard what this guy's saying. Do Alberta mainly and just do our own thing. It's
when they were doing the truck back during COVID and the pandemic stuff, when they were doing the truck convoys and caravans and stuff like that, did you know any of the guys that were involved in that?
I was there like every day.
Were you?
Yeah.
How was that? Well, I mean, tell me about that.
It was amazing. I thought what it was interesting is that it just really highlighted to people that were paying attention how much the news and the government just blatantly lie. Because I was down there almost every day that it was the convoy was at the heart of Ottawa with my kids. It was like the friendliest collection of thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I've ever seen. Like, you don't go to concerts and people are getting along like that. It was crazy. And then you watch the news and it was like this violent, don't you dare go down there because you'll for sure get killed by all these crazy whatever. And like, we're down there, the bouncy castles on the street and they're barbecuing stuff up for homeless people. And like, it was really interesting to see like reality. And then you put the news on right beside it. And I'm like, my friends are messaging me from Alberta. Like, oh, don't go down there. I heard it's crazy. I'm like, oh my God.
That's, that reminds me, because again, down here, they were showing footage of everybody's a white supremacist or there's Nazi flags. And and I was like, okay, I know how you guys spin this because I know how you spun January 6th in Washington, D.C. Yep. I had been at several Stop the Steal rallies prior to January 6th. I was not in D.C. January 6th, but I was around those people and they were the kindest. If I had to get to a stage to speak, they made a path. I remember you just did Alex Jones before you were on here. I was there. Alex was there. They moved out of the way for, Alex and his guys to get where they needed to be. People were polite. They were kind. And then all of a sudden they're going to pop off and say suddenly there was an insurrection on January 6th. So the media spin and the narrative's insane, man. Where do we go from here at Dallas? I mean, I do comedy. I do a little bit of music. I do comedy music. Some people laugh at my music. So it all works together. But you jumped into the music thing. I think comedy and music has the ability to communicate a message in a big way that's powerful, maybe bring people back together, maybe communicate some truth that people won't listen to otherwise. You jumped into music and started pursuing it pretty hardcore. Tell me about that journey. How long you been playing and singing?
My first open mic was in the fall of 2019. So I think it was September or something. And I was still in our special operations unit, but I had decided just a little bit before that music was what I wanted to do. So once I decided that, I just had to figure out how to do it, and then started learning as many songs as I could to get bar shows and whatever local pub or cafe or lounge would have me come play. And then I just every step of the way, I'd like learn what the next half step needed to be, and just practiced every day. And started going down to Nashville because I heard that's where all the music is at. Been going down there for about a year and a half. Now we're going to move, I think, probably quite soon.
You going to move down there?
Yeah.
All right, come on.
At least to start. We talked about Texas actually, but I want to tour a lot anyway, so I'd like to play all over, and the days off in between the music kind of industry networking stuff that happens in Nashville is very valuable.
Yeah. And you're connected to some good people. I mean, our buddy Vaden Willis, who connected us via text a while back, Vaden knows everybody. It's crazy, that dude. He just networks in Nashville. He knows everybody. And although I'm in Texas, I'm with a record label in Nashville, Based Records, and I'm connected with some folks. And I'm always amazed at that community of people.
Yeah.
And Nashville, as big and wild as it's gotten and kind of out of hand with the production companies that are out there kind of getting woke and full of shit, I still appreciate those folks over there.
It's still been amazing. Vaden was one of the first people I met in town and just introduced me to everyone. It was the first writer round I ever played with Smash Farm. Actually, that's his hat right here. It was the first writer round I ever played.
Oh, nice.
And he just continues to just help me network, and my network down there has grown. It's amazing, amazing people. I can't believe how I thought there'd be a ton of more ego going into the music business. And I think you don't have to search real hard to find it, but most of the people that I know and have met have been unbelievable. Yeah,
and those guys, they tend to remember kind of where they came from. They know their own struggles and the speed bumps and obstacles that they went through. And so that's always kind of close to the surface. I found that too. I mean, there's assholes everywhere, right? I mean, you'll run into some of that stuff. But by and large, and I always say I'm not a musician. I come from musicians, but I'm not a musician. I just learned in college that girls like the guy that can play guitar. And I learned enough chords to piece together my mediocrity to make myself, relevant and entertaining in some ways.
You only need 3 or 4 of them.
You don't need that. I mean, that's a whole deal. I mean, there's a whole museum down there called the Country Music Hall of Fame. And they got the words of George Jones on the wall. It says 3 chords in the truth. I mean, that's really all you need. My buddy Chris Wallen, he always says all you need is some auto tune and a loop, 3 chords in a loop, and you just keep playing those over again. And unfortunately, that's all you got to do anymore.
Yeah.
But no, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Where all can people find you? I mean, how can people get behind you and find what you're doing on the music side of things and hear your stuff? I tell everybody they need to follow you on Instagram. Go see that now viral video that you put out walking down the street there in Nashville. Because when I ran across it, I was like, "Oh, he's spitting truth." And did you get pushback from that?
Yeah. Oh man, there's a ton from the whole spectrum of human beings, but I mostly took the advice that I heard Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan say, and I didn't read very many of the comments.
Yeah, you can't. I still am tempted to go look at them, but you can't. But you know what? What I found, Dallas, and you know this already. You put that out there. I guess it's been a week now, maybe not quite a week, and it blew up the way that it did. But now more stuff is coming out, and you're just being proven right, and that's the way these things tend to go.
Yeah. Oh, and if something came out where I'm like, "Oh shit, I was completely wrong," I would just make a new video and be like,
right.
I'm going to rethink my spidey senses next time this happens. But it's actually it's getting more and more suspicious as days pass.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
The rabbit hole is getting it's a whole lot deeper and it's a whole lot more complex. So, my advice to people, Dan Bongino, he's got a great thing where he calls it the 72-hour rule. It's the Bongino rule. Wait 72 hours when something happens before you start speculating on it. This was pretty obvious quick that something was going on. But now I don't know that we'll ever fully know what happened on this deal.
I
don't know that we will.
Like, news does it immediately. They start speculating. So I don't see why anyone else with, some experience in the field can't as well. There was some stuff I would see from time to time, even though I wasn't digging into the comments, but like, how could you be putting this out there when we don't know yet? I'm like, well, who are you waiting for to tell you the truth? The people that have historically lied to you every single chance they get. Mine's just another perspective from my experience. And the news is giving you a perspective probably that they've been handed, or it seems that way anyway. And you're like, theirs is also immediate. And it's just like, where do you get your truth from?
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of folks out there say, retired veterans or retired special forces guys that are like, you know what, screw the Secret Service. We'll come do it for free. Like, we'll come protect you. Obviously, pretty certain that's not going to happen. But what's your take on the idea of just saying, you know what, screw it? I've said forever when it comes to these school shootings, there's a lot of retired vets that are out there looking for some things to do.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, they still know how to take care and secure a facility, particularly a building full of children. Yeah. Let them have it. What do you think about that in terms of them providing protection detail for Trump?
Yeah, the night I posted that video, I offered it up. It was on Drinking Bros with Tim Kennedy and Rob O'Neill, and it's like, I'll do it. I don't know if you want a Canadian on the team, but
yeah, I mean, and it's so it's funny you talk about Rob and Tim. Tim's been on this show. Guys like Chad Robichaud. Chad's a buddy, and he'll jump on a plane and go to Ukraine or Poland, or he'll go get people out of Afghanistan. He'll take Tim Kennedy with him. Last time I saw Tim, I think it was the last time I said, what's up? Where are you headed? He said, I'm going home to get $130,000 in cash out of the safe, and I'm going to put it in a belt, and I'm going to Sudan to get 4,000 people out of there. And I'm like, that's next level, dude. I mean, just you guys don't operate on the same plane that my country club ass is operating on. I just put it that way.
Like, I was just headed to get a beer, but okay.
I was like, you get to go home for a few minutes, maybe see the fam. But I don't know. These guys, they're out there, and I think Trump would be in better hands. I mean, we were a centimeter away from potentially being thrust into what we keep talking about as a catchphrase and a punchline, but truly a civil war. That very well could have happened here in the U.S.
Yeah, it would have been crazy if that. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy now. I think more people are just shaking their heads, and a lot of people probably have a ton more people kind of rallying behind him now. But if it would have gone a little bit differently, it would have been.
Yeah. It is interesting to watch, though. I mean, you got Trump, who's had 9,000 indictments, the felonies, the arrest, the conviction, the mugshot. They tried to take him off the ballot. They've defamed him every way they possibly can. And the guy just seems, and they shot him, and he just seems to keep getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
And the popularity, then now Biden says he's not going to run for reelection. They've trotted another puppet out there in Kamala Harris, and it's a kangaroo situation. It's a banana republic. It really is. I don't know where we head from here, but it's wild. So what's next for you, man? When are you playing music back in the States?
September, I got a couple shows. We're going to be on tour in Canada with opening for Brian Martin for all his Canadian shows, and then we have a couple of shows in Wyoming when we have a few days off from that. I was just trying to fill in the space, so we're going to head down there. I've never been to Wyoming, and it looks beautiful. So
it's gorgeous.
Hoping to line some stuff up in Texas. Just waiting to hear back on a few things for October, and just filling shows wherever anyone needs music.
That's good. We need to do something together.
Yeah.
We need to do something. It'd be fun. And when you come to Texas, make sure you holler at me. Let me know, and we'll promote it. And I'd love to connect with you. Where all can people find you besides the socials? You got a website?
Yeah, it's dallasalexander.ca. His .com was taken by someone who's quite obviously not me if you go there and check it out. That's where I have my show dates and merch, and my album's available on vinyl right now, and I'm just putting out the songs one at a time to digital platforms. I kind of did it in reverse to what everyone's doing now. But dallasalexander.ca.
Dude, I'm proud of you. I'm thankful for you for speaking up and speaking out. I know you're one of those guys that, I don't know. Like I know a lot of guys that have been in your shoes and kind of walked that journey. And I don't know that you necessarily want to be thrust into the limelight to be a spokesperson for a lot of this stuff, but you know what you know, and I'm thankful that you do, and I'm thankful that you share that information with the rest of us. It's those are the things that matter, because right now I don't know, they're sweeping so much stuff under the rug, it sucks. And it's voices like yours and Matt Murphy, he's done a good job of putting some stuff out there, and various others. So just keep on whooping that ass, man. And you and I'll connect on a more fun level. We'll mess around with some music or something like that. But hey, you know what? America's big enough. Nashville's full of people. It's full of traffic. It's one of the fastest growing cities in America. But I wouldn't mind it if the Alexanders moved down there as well. Yeah. So I'm there a lot. I need more people to hang out with, because Vaden, God bless Vaden Willis. He every time I go down there, he's trying to destroy my liver. I have to take it out, hit it with a hammer, put it back in, and give it new life. So, brother, I appreciate your time, man. I'm so thankful for you. And it's dallasalexander.ca. Go check him out. Follow him on the socials. We'll put all that information up. But man, stay safe. If I can ever do anything for you, please let me know. And thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for having me. We'll connect when I get down to Texas.
Let's go.
All
right, guys. Make sure you're following Dallas. Check it out. Go watch his video. The one that you'll know it. You'll know it. Good looking dude with the sunglasses on, looking like a rock star, walking down the streets of Nashville, telling you the truth. It's a good video, and he knocks it out of the park on that. You guys can find me at watchchad.com. It's where all the fun stuff is, live shows. I love doing the live shows. The beauty of doing the live shows is there's no algorithm, there's no filter, there's nothing between me and you, just the transference of ideas, and we can have fun with it. So get out there. I'm on the road and doing all the stuff, and I need to get back up to Canada, for crying out loud. COVID's over with. Let's go. I need to get back up there. But anyway, in the meantime, folks, share this episode. It's important information, and it matters. Make sure your family and friends are watching and or listening to it. The ratings and reviews, they matter. And you can join the family at thechadprathershow.com. We'd love to have you. We won't spam your email if you join us, but we will send you a newsletter on Fridays, and it matters, and it's important, and you want to get it, okay? Trust me. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. We love you. God bless you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.